Wednesday night. We are back live again. Test me and see by leaving a comment, and then you'll know if I'm really live or not. But we're here. We're ready to dive back into Romans. We're ready to look at some cool pictures. We are getting pumped up for Easter. We have Palm Sunday coming up this weekend and then Easter Sunday. So I hope you are excited as well. Hope you're inviting people. Hope you're making plans to celebrate with us. Very exciting times to be in church. Really, all the time should be exciting to be in a church community, but for sure, as we get closer to Easter, we say that's like the Super Bowl of the church. Very, very exciting. Hi, Leila. Hey, Kelly. All right. Now that I've proven that I am live, let's dive into lists. So I said we'd look at some scams and some misspellings. You know, I love to look at misspellings or weird words that people have posted on the interwebs. Reverend Brian Spicer. Hello, my friend. All right, let's do this. First, the scams. So this is tough, and I'm not sure. Somebody posted this, and how awful would it be to order a new pair of sneakers and only get one of them in the box? I don't know. Like, anybody could do this. Like, I could get a box of sneakers, take one out, take a picture of it, and be like, my life is horrible. But if this really happened, that is pretty horrible. I can say I ordered a wall canvas of a Coke bottle that I thought was really cool, and a box of K-Cups from Kohl's. And when I got the box that had my name on it, it was a Mickey Mouse welcome mat and some giant pajama pants that I would never wear. So that was disappointing. AJ was less disappointed because now the Coke canvas doesn't have to hang anywhere in the house. But I guess mistakes can be made in shipping. But so we'll just go with this person only got one shoe. And that's very sad. It's a scam. This is tough. You imagine booking a stay at a hotel and they say they have a pool area. This is not the type of pool area you're looking for. They covered over the pool and put a pool table. Yeah, see, that's tough. If you order a golf set and get a foam golf ball, that'd be disappointing. There are some things with shipping. We give people grace. They make mistakes. But then there's also scammers out there. Like when you order a Mother's Day cake and it says Happy Women's Day. Yeah, any amount of money for a foam golf ball is that's a tough one. Sorry about that. Happy Women's Day. All right, let's see. Airbnb, again, you like want to take your family out, like Airbnb with a pool, and then you get here, and this is what the pool looks like. I mean, technically there is a pool there, but they did not mention that there was no water in the pool. So that's tough. Hey, you order carbonara from your favorite Italian restaurant, and this is what you get. That's just somebody that has given up, has cooked that for you. Let's see. Same thing. $15 Caesar salad from a restaurant. Again, just give it up. They probably include a foam golf ball with that. Let's see. Oh, this is tough. This is an ocean view. Apparently, the ocean's back there somewhere, but you're not really going to see it clearly through the abandoned buildings. Also, there's a good chance you're going to get attacked during the night there. This would be very, very tough for you gamers. You order a PlayStation controller off eBay, and it comes with an Xbox controller inside. Scam. I call scam right there. That is not good. Brookage Community Church does not support that kind of business practice. Here you go. You book to stay at a hotel. A lot of times, like, hey, you don't have a bathtub at home. You go to the hotel, you want to take a nice bath, and then the water starts coming out. You're like, no, thank you. That's very gross. Or when you order a Deadpool costume, and that's what comes. Again, some people have just given up or do not care. That is a scam. I think I've showed you this before. This is not the note you want to get in your hotel room when you pull back the covers. If you're reading the note, they didn't change the sheets. Ew. Room service, please. or check, please. Either one. And there, that's the size of the TV in your hotel room. That is not a good deal. Here you go. This one actually came with a nice view in the balcony, but then for your safety, these doors have been locked. So here's the good news. Good news is we're going to give you a balcony with a nice view. Bad news is you can't walk out there. It's tough. Oh, here you go. Brisket nachos. Those do not look good. As much as I like cheese, that still does not look good for brisket nachos. No, that's not good. This is another ocean view from a hotel room. It's facing the sea. It's just I don't know what's happening there. Here you go, another Airbnb with a hot tub. Who's gonna get in that? It looks like nobody's been in there. Uh, yeah, right. Those did not look good. Leather nachos for sure, and then very sketchy Airbnb. All right, let's move on from there and celebrate social media. Hey, I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids. I think meddling with these is what they were looking for, but I go crazy for small gestures. Again, I think gestures is what they were looking for, but you post what you want to post, people. Considering his circumstances, he looks like he's keeping his head up. Hi, Megan. Considering his circumstances. Like this. Oh, I love the cemetery between those two. It's great when you're watching a romantic comedy or a drama and there's a lot of cemetery between the two leading characters. Yes, we have great cemetery. A brass wall candle larva. No thank you for so many reasons. And then they doubled down with brass candle larva that hangs on the wall. Yes, symmetry would be what we're looking for, not cemetery. What are you most excited for? Just to get there and change of pace. Pace, I believe, is what we're looking for. This lady is just lip singing. And then they were corrected by their friend, or they corrected themselves. Lip syncing is what we were looking for there. That was a smart move. It's like they're playing a game of chess and she just checkmated him. Checkmated would be what they were looking for. That's egotistical, I believe, is what they were looking for there. We're just going to move on. Love these. Nothing like going to breakfast and getting a classic poached egg on toast. Love those. And then there's a couple of them. The fact that they are all called theories, which not spelled correctly, means there are no facts to back them up. The theory of evolution, Big Bang Theory, ECT. If you're really going for it, if you can't put etc. Correctly, sorry about that. This is tough when you're renting and your landlord is trying to charge you an absorbent amount. That's not good. Congratulations to myself. Change is ineditable. Yeah, I don't know what. Sometimes your phone will just let you know, hey, is this what you're trying to say before you hit send or post? The last one is I like the dance at the end, but I'm not giving you marks for it. Sent me into a historical laughing state. So history making, laughing, or hysterical. Yeah, good times. All right, so if you're going to post something on the interwebs, we are going to find it and we are going to celebrate it at Brokerage. All right, we're going to celebrate some more stuff. We're going to dive back into Romans again. I have been really excited about the about where we've been in Romans. And so, all right, let's remove this for a second. So Romans has been really cool so far. A lot of deep stuff. Claire is here. Hi, Claire. Romans has a lot of chapters left, so we're going to be in Romans for a while. Sometimes you just have to stop and go through a verse at a time and kind of just focus on that. Sometimes you can go through a little bit longer passages, but if you remember the last couple of weeks, here we go. Oh, my friend from Convoy of Hope, our favorite network representative, Reverend Gary Hansen. He is the best. And we are hoping at Brookridge he's going to come back and see us this year. Autocorrect is my word. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Always with the jokes. Nice. Gary Hansen, my friend. All right. So we're in Romans 3, and really exciting the last couple of weeks. We were able to focus on the famous part of Romans chapter 3, where we talked about justification, where we talked about redemption, faith. Like Paul was giving us a whole lot of big, beautiful theological language, and then we discussed it, how it applies to us and salvation. So really cool. And now we get to the end of the chapter of Romans 3, after he said all these things, and we hit verse 27. So he says, then what becomes of our boasting? It is excluded. So you're just talking about how great of a salvation we have. Then what becomes of our boasting? It's excluded. By what kind of law? By a law of works? No, but by the law of faith. For we hold that one is justified by faith apart from the works of the law. Or is God the God of Jews only? Is he not the God of Gentiles also? Yes, of Gentiles also, since God is one, who will justify the circumcised by faith and the uncircumcised through faith. Do we then overthrow the law by this faith? By no means. On the contrary, we uphold the law. And it kind of seems like here where Paul just starts rambling a little bit. Like he said some of the most amazing things in the part of the letter before this in Romans 3. And so it's like, all right, is he just trying to come up with the words to finish this out? These verses are really crucial in addressing one of Paul's primary concerns in Romans, one of his primary reasons for writing. So we're going to take this week and next week and talk about these 4 verses. Like, Russ, how could we possibly talk about these 4 verses for 2 weeks? Well, remember, the book of Romans isn't just Paul laying out the gospel. It's also practical counsel on a real life problem that was plaguing the church in Rome. And it was the fact that Jews and Gentiles were not getting along. If you remember, Romans was written right after Jews returned to the church in Rome after being gone for 5 years. They'd been gone for 5 years because Emperor Claudius had banished all the Jews from Rome, which included the Jewish Christians. You can find that story actually at the beginning of Acts 18. Well, after 5 years, Claudius lifted the ban, and so all these Jews are coming back. But here's the thing. Jews and Gentiles had all these cultural differences, stylistic difference, political differences, so forth. We know nothing about that because we all just believe the same thing and worship the same way now. Prior to this, I couldn't even say it with a straight face. I tried. Jews had basically been in charge of the church because they had been the first Christians, and the Gentiles had kind of been the add-ins or the add-on people. But after the Jews left, the Gentiles took over. So now the Jews are returning to a church that was very different than the one they left. The church was doing Gentile music with Gentile instruments. Pastor was wearing Gentile styles. He probably preached sometimes in his shorts and polo shirts. At the potlucks, they were serving Gentile foods. Some of the teenagers were even wearing Nike t-shirts to church and whatnot. Like the culture that used to be in charge wasn't in charge anymore. So all these racial and cultural tensions are flaring. So Paul is writing Romans in part to help unify them. By the way, it's really important to note that they didn't just start a Jewish campus and a Gentile campus for 2 different churches on opposite sides of town, right? That would have been much easier. They're like, you know what? You guys worship Jesus the way you want to. We're going over here and we're going to do it the way we want to. Yeah, easier, yes, but good? No. Paul's vision of the church was Jew and Gentile in one united body. That's why multi-ethnicity is really important to the Church of Jesus. We should reflect the diversity of our community and proclaim the diversity of God's kingdom. That's even when we talk about even I don't talk about politics a lot, but even politically, there are some things that we disagree on or feel differently about. That doesn't mean we should go to different churches. Those things are not tied to our salvation. We should be able to talk through them, and we should be able to value each other relationally enough in a community that we can talk through these things and not let these things drive us apart. So Paul's saying the answer for this relational breakdown is the gospel. He's saying the gospel can fix anything. Jesus can fix anything. And he writes this long treatise of sorts on the gospel in the Bible, this whole book of Romans, to address this relational problem, which itself should be a lesson to us, right? Relational problems are best addressed through the gospel. Paul says that one of the primary things that's dividing Jew and Gentile believers is how Jews approach the law, because Jews approach the law with this typical religious mindset that we obey, therefore we are accepted. And we said that's wrong. That's not the gospel. The gospel is we are accepted, therefore we obey. They assumed, like every other religion except the gospel, that being right with God was determined by how well they kept the law. Their justification was found in their law keeping. And that premise, Paul is saying, is what fuels the division. You're like, how's that? Well, when your justification, when you're standing before God, is based on how well you do, you're always in competition with everybody else, because how good you see yourself is determined by how you compare to other people. And that results in pride, / boasting when you're doing well, and then despair / jealousy when you're not. The essence of pride in any area, religion, sports, academics, parenting, culture, ethnicity, is competition. C.S. Lewis, who I quote all the time, I know, he said this: pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man. We say that people are proud of being rich or clever or good looking, but they're not. They're proud of being richer or cleverer or better looking than others. If everyone else became equally rich or clever or good looking, there'd be nothing to be proud about. It's the comparison, he says, that makes you proud, the pleasure of being above the rest. Think about it this way. It doesn't matter to some Red Sox fans, that I'm not including myself in this. I want them to win every game. But it doesn't matter to some Red Sox fans that our team is good, only that they're better than the Yankees. Red Sox-Yankees rivalry has had its ups and downs over the years, but there was a time where it was like, I don't care if they beat anybody else, they just need to beat the Yankees. And vice versa for Yankee fans. For those fans, they may not even care what the record is for the season, only that you beat the Yankees during the season. Pride sustains itself by comparison. So in religion, we're always asking, am I better than that person? Am I as good of a parent as that other person? Like I said, when you're doing well, that leads to boasting, which turns to being judgmental or even having disdain for other people. Like, man, must be hard to be them. If they just did things the way I do them, if they just did the right thing, then they wouldn't have to deal with all these other things. And when you don't compare favorably to others, it leads to an inferiority complex or despair, which turns into jealousy and hatred. You are absolutely right. Comparison is toxic. And then you develop this is how it goes downhill. Jealousy, hatred, inferiority complex, or boasting, judgmental, disdain. All these things come from comparison. Then you develop a real sensitivity to criticism, right? Criticism really bothers you because your identity is built on being good compared to everybody else. And if people challenge your sense of goodness, they challenge your identity. So you get really prickly when you get criticized, and it either devastates you or in self-defense, you start compiling a list of all the things wrong with the person who's criticizing you. Your justification has been attacked, so you have to defend yourself. Or maybe you just silently resent whoever makes you look bad. Guy that gets a promotion instead of you, you're like, but I'm a better dad than him. Like that other mother that puts a perfect little picture on Facebook of her perfect little kids dressed in their perfect matching outfits with their perfect brownies in front of her perfect HD TV worthy kitchen. And you're like, I don't like her. I wish she'd get hit by a bus. And you assume or even hope she's having marital problems. Like, that's, our minds are no good when we get into comparison. That all comes from having an identity built on goodness. In fact, when our justification comes from our law keeping, we usually live in denial about our flaws. We can't admit our flaws even to ourselves because that would undermine our sense of goodness. See why Paul pinpoints this as a major source of division? So after explaining the gospel in detail in chapter 3, that's what we covered, that our justification comes not from how good we are, but it's given to us freely as a gift because of Jesus. Paul says here, where then is boasting? It's excluded. By what kind of law? By one of works? He says, no, on the contrary, by a law of faith. What he's saying here, he says, how do we get rid of pride? How do we get rid of boasting? By a law, like saying, thou shalt not be prideful, thou shalt not boast? No, the gospel eliminates boasting by undercutting the very basis of pride. You weren't saved by anything you did. You couldn't keep the law. You were a miserable failure, and so was I. There was none righteous. No, not one. In fact, you and I were so bad that Jesus had to die to save us. That's the gospel, and that destroys any basis or foundation of pride. When I survey the wondrous cross, the hymn says, my richest gain I count but loss and pour contempt on all my pride. Or Paul says in verse 29 of this chapter, is God the God of Jews only? Is he not the God of Gentiles too? Yes, of Gentiles too, since there is one God who will justify the circumcised by faith and the uncircumcised through faith. In other words, why do you think of yourselves in different categories? There's only one kind of person, sinner. Remember Romans 3:23? Everyone has sinned. All of us have fallen short of the glory of God. And there's only one way of salvation. In verse 22 of this chapter 3, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe. There's no distinction. And now in verse 29, Paul says there's only one God who justifies both the circumcised, the religious people, and the uncircumcised, the irreligious people, through the same means. We all get there by faith. So the gospel, Paul is saying, creates this new humanity that overcomes the divisions created by boasting that comes from distinguishing ourselves from others. It's a new inclusive humanity that overcomes any divisions that come from our pride. You're like, wait, only one God, only one way of salvation? That doesn't sound inclusive, Russ. That sounds like the definition of exclusive. It's a fair point, but understand first that all religious claims are exclusive. Hang with me here for a second. For example, if we say all good people of every religion go to heaven, that sounds inclusive, right? Hashtag coexist. Okay, well, if you say that, who have we excluded? All good people of every religion go to heaven. Does that exclude some people? Yeah, it excludes bad people. And then I guess you get to define what's bad. I suppose like racists, rapists, child molesters are on that list. If you're conservative, you probably put sexually immoral people on the list. Or if you're liberal, you probably put those who call certain kinds of consensual sex immoral on the list. But the point is, we all have a list, and some people are on it and others aren't. You might say, no, I'm not religious at all. I don't exclude anybody for any reason. But you still have your standard as to what constitutes a good person. Every single religious and moral viewpoint ends up being exclusive. Everybody has a line for who's in and who's out. But the gospel of Jesus is a different kind of exclusivity, because the gospel teaches that our acceptance with God is not based on anything about us. We're not accepted because of our moral record, our education, our marital status, our race, our political viewpoint. God gives salvation as a gift to anyone who repent and receive it in humility and faith. Tim Keller said, you could say all religions are exclusive, but Christianity is the most inclusive exclusivity there is. Christianity is the most inclusive exclusivity there is. I like that. Oh, Mr. O'Connor, thank you for stopping by, my friend. I appreciate you. Heard your basketball league is going well. This man is very talented. Football leagues, basketball leagues, very good guy. Here's the thing. What made the gospel in the first century scandalous was not who it excluded, but who it included. So according to the Talmud, which was a collection of Jewish traditions, I've told you this before when we were going through Philippians, every morning a Jewish man would pray, thank God I'm not a woman, I'm not a slave, and I'm not a Gentile. Well, in Acts 16, Paul, who was a Jewish rabbi involved with he was a Jewish religious leader, he goes to start a church in Philippi. First three converts mentioned in Acts 16 were Lydia, a woman, a demon-possessed slave girl, and then a jailer, a Gentile jailer. The gospel overturns all basis for the boasting that leads to division. Paul says it's excluded. By what kind of law? By one of works? No, by a law of faith. In case it hasn't been clear, don't just think that seeking justification or keeping the law in strictly religious terms. Like everybody, whether you are religious or not, you're seeking justification. Maybe it comes through success as a job. The famous movie director, he was an actor too, Sidney Pollack, shortly before he died in 2008, there was an article written about him that explained that even though he was sick and he was dying at the time, he couldn't stop working. His family begged him to stop because it was shortening his life. He refused. The article said, movie mogul Sidney Pollack says that although the grueling film movie making process is wearing him down, he can't justify his existence if he stops. And he said, every time I finish another picture, I feel I've earned my stay for another year or so. We all do that. We say, here's how I've earned my stay. That's a secular quest for righteousness. Some other people try to find it in parenting. Another writer whose career was kind of stalled. Nobody was reading his work. So he questioned his whole purpose in life. But he said, but then I look at my two little girls. He said, I know my existence is justified. In other words, being a good dad to those two little girls justifies his existence. A lot of parents are like that. Their existence is justified by enabling their children to be successful. But here's the thing. If your children are your justification, you end up putting too much pressure on them because you need them to succeed for you to be validated. And if they don't, if they do poorly or get in trouble or compare unfavorably, you take it as a deep personal blow to your identity. You may even say to them, if you don't do this, then I've failed as a parent. So your passion for their success is ultimately selfish because you need them to succeed so you feel justified. And all this goes back to a soul condition that we see as one of the most revealing pictures of the human race. It comes from St. Augustine. He said, the result of our sin, talking about Adam and Eve, the result of our sin was a sense of nakedness. Remember, Adam and Eve all of a sudden realized that when they sinned against God, and they realized that they didn't have clothes on, so they very quickly, we're trying to remedy that. We do the same thing. Sin causes us to look for something to be our clothing, our righteousness, our justification. The words for righteousness and justification, it's the same word in Greek. Charles Spurgeon, the 19th century British pastor, Prince of Preachers he's called, says he saw three main dividers, three main places of boasting that caused division in London society during his day. And it's amazing how true these are still today. And we're going to cover them next week. So until then, remember that there are a ton of things that makes the gospel of Jesus unique. There are a ton of reasons why we do what we do with the people that we do it, in the way that we do it. The gospel brings a unity of diversity like nothing else in the world. And the reason for that is because we no longer have to compare ourselves to everybody else. We no longer are in competition with everybody else because we all are at that same level. We are all sinners. We all realize if we've accepted Jesus into our lives as our Lord and Savior, we realize that we needed grace, that we needed forgiveness, that there was nothing we could do to save ourselves. We needed rescue. There was nothing we could do to be right before God. But Jesus offered us, through his sacrifice, his death and resurrection, he offers us his righteousness for our sin and gives us a chance to be adopted as sons and daughters of God, gives us a chance for eternal life, gives us a chance to live for a greater purpose than we ever could on our own. And we get to do it with the best community of people that you could have asked for. I am a little bit biased toward Brookridge, maybe a lot biased, but I am so grateful for the group of people that he's brought together, not just physically, but the group of people in our network around the United States. I appreciate the people that tune in. Love Megan. Scott. Scott says hi. Nice. That's Megan's husband, Scott. Appreciate him. We have people all around the country that worship with us, that study with us, and it's a really cool thing. And they're not just my friends. They're people who don't just appreciate our family and our church, but we have the same story, that we have been rescued, that we have been saved, and we want other people to know that grace, that mercy, that forgiveness, the justification, the redemption is available to everyone through faith in Jesus. We'll talk about this a little bit more next week. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I don't know what's going on with the cats behind me, but they've been sprinting around the room. So very weird. It's like they had catnip. I appreciate y'all very much. Appreciate our network churches and friends. Yeah. Getting pumped for Easter already. Palm Sunday. Going for it. And I will see you all soon. Bobby, I appreciate you jumping on, man. Appreciate you. All right, my friends. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to awkwardly sign off. And hello, Monica and Ross. Yes, they are running around somewhere in here. Crazy cats. All right. Maybe they want more food. All right. For those of you jumping over to Bay State Baptist, 7:30 has passed us, so he's probably already starting. Reverend Brian Spicer, we love him. For the rest of you, I will see you. We got a special Palm Sunday message, then special Easter message. So I'm excited about this week and excited to be a part of this family. Take care.